Welcome to Noonday Nonsense. Welcome everyone to Noonday Nonsense. This is my assistant T.S. Elephant, who will occasionally be helping with the poetry. On top of the crumpety tree, the quangle wangle sat, but his face you could not see on account of his beaver hat, for his hat was 102 feet wide, with ribbons and bibbons on every side, and bells and buttons and loops and lace, so that nobody ever could see the face of the quangle wangle quee. The quangle wangle said to himself on the crumpety tree, "Jam and jelly and bread are the best of the food for me. But the longer I live on this crumpety tree, the plainer than ever it seems to me that very few people come this way, and that life on the whole is far from gay," said the quangle wangle quee. But there came to the crumpety tree Mr. and Mrs. Canary, and they said, "Did ever you see any spot so charmingly airy? May we build a nest on your lovely hat? Mr. Quangle Wangle, grant us that. Oh, please, let us come and build a nest of whatever material suits you best, Mr. Quangle Wangle Quee." And besides, to the crumpety tree came the stork, the duck, and the owl, the snail, and the bumblebee, the frog, and the fimble fowl with the corkscrew leg, and all of them said, "We humbly beg we may build our homes on your lovely hat. Mr. Quangle Wangle, grant us that, Mr. Quangle Wangle Quee." And the golden grouse came there, and the pobble who has no toes, and the small Olympian bear, and the dong with the luminous nose, and the blue baboon who plays the flute, and the orient calf from the land of Toot, and the attery squash and the bisky bat, all came and built on the lovely hat of the Quangle Wangle Quee. And the Quangle Wangle said to himself on the crumpety tree, "When all these creatures move, what a wonderful noise there'll be! And at night, by the light of the mulberry moon, they dance to the flute of the blue baboon on the broad green leaves of the crumpety tree, and all were as happy could be with the Quangle Wangle Quee." Now that was a poem by a man called Edward Lear, and we'll be hearing a lot more of Edward Lear as this week goes on. He had a splendid beard, said Edward Lear. I must find a picture of him, maybe for tomorrow. Now, please let me know in the comments who is watching and where, and if you yourself have any favourite nonsense poems that you'd like to hear, then please let me know. I think Friday will be an all request Friday. Anyway, here's another famous one by Edward Lear. They went to sea in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they went to sea, in spite of all their friends could say. On a winter's morn, on a stormy day, in a sieve they went to sea. And when the sieve turned round and round, and everyone cried, "You'll all be drowned," they called aloud, "Our sieve ain't big, but we don't care a button, we don't care a fig. In a sieve we'll go to sea." Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. They sailed away in a sieve, they did. In a sieve they sailed so fast, with only a beautiful pea-green veil tied with a riband by way of a sail to a small tobacco pipe mast. And everyone said who saw them go, "Oh, won't they be soon upset, you know, for the sky is dark and the voyage is long, and happen what may, it's extremely wrong in a sieve to sail so fast." Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. The water, it soon came in, it did. The water, it soon came in. So to keep them dry, they wrapped their feet in a pinky paper all folded neat, and they fastened it down with a pin. And they passed the night in a crockery jar, and each of them said, "How wise we are! Though the sky be dark and the voyage be long, yet we cannot think we were rash or wrong, while round in our sieve we spin." Far and few, far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. And all night long they sailed away, and when the sun went down, they whistled and warbled a moony song to the echoing sound of a coppery gong in the shade of the mountains brown. "Oh, Timballo, how happy we are when we live in a sieve and a crockery jar, and all night long in the moonlight pale we sail away with a pea-green sail in the shade of the mountains brown." Far and few, far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. They sailed to the western sea, they did, to a land all covered with trees, and they bought an owl and a useful cart, and a pound of rice and a cranberry tart, and a hive of silvery bees, and they bought a pig and some green jackdaws, and a lovely monkey with lollipop paws, and 40 bottles of Ringbo Ree, and no end of Stilton cheese. Far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. And in 20 years they all came back. In 20 years or more, and everyone said how tall they've grown, for they've been to the lakes and the terrible zone and the hills of the Chankly Bore, and they drank their health and gave them a feast of dumplings made of beautiful yeast. And everyone said, if we only live, we too will go to sea in a sieve to the hills of the Chankly Bore. Far and few, far and few are the lands where the Jumblies live. Their heads are green and their hands are blue, and they went to sea in a sieve. Now, as well as being a nonsense poet of the highest distinction, Edward Lear was also an artist. He was a brilliant painter. And in honour of Edward Lear, I am going to set you some homework. I don't care how old you are. I want you to draw me a Jumbly. And I want you to email your picture to me. The contact page to get my email address is in the comments at the top. I'm deadly serious now. If you don't email me a picture of a Jumbly, there'll be trouble. Now, this is another poem that you've probably heard before, because it comes from a very famous book called Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. "You are old, Father William," the young man said, "and your hair has become very white, and yet you incessantly stand on your head. Do you think at your age this is right?" "In my youth," Father William replied to his son, "I feared it might injure the brain, but now I'm perfectly sure I have none. Why, I do it again and again." "You are old," said the youth, "as I mentioned before, and have grown most uncommonly fat, yet you turned a back somersault in at the door. Pray, what is the reason of that?" "In my youth," said the sage, as he shook his grey locks, "I kept all my limbs very supple by the use of this ointment, 1 shilling the box. Allow me to sell you a couple." "You are old," said the youth, "and your jaws are too weak for anything tougher than suet. Yet you finished the goose with the bones and the beak. Pray, how did you manage to do it?" "In my youth," said his father, "I took to the law and argued each case with my wife, and the muscular strength which it gave to my jaw has lasted the rest of my life." "You are old," said the youth. "One would hardly suppose that your eye was as steady as ever, yet you balanced an eel on the end of your nose. What made you so awfully clever?" "I've answered 3 questions, and that is enough," said his father. Don't give yourself airs. Do you think I can listen all day to such stuff? Be off, or I'll kick you downstairs. Now, back to Edward Lear. Edward Lear made famous a short form of poem called a limerick. I'm sure you know what limericks are. They're very short poems that rhyme. Edward Lear wrote many, many limericks. Some of them are funny, some of them not so much. But I'm going to end each episode by randomly choosing a limerick by Edward Lear to read to you. And you must let me know what you think. So this is absolutely random. Look, I'll show you it. You can tell me when to stop, in fact. Okay, stop. There was a young person of Bantry who frequently slept in the pantry. When disturbed by the mice, she appeased them with rice. That judicious young person of Bantry. Thank you for listening. I hope to see you tomorrow. What time? Noon.